Hi, welcome to Random and Restful, the channel that aims to calm your mind and distract you from your daily stressors with fact-based videos shared in a relaxed, friendly tone. Today we discuss Ireland and all the amazing reasons you should visit. Close your eyes and travel along as we check out 100 reasons to visit Ireland. The Cliffs of Moher. Okay, so these cliffs rise 700 feet straight out of the Atlantic Ocean in County Clare. I stood there with wind whipping my face, and I've never felt more alive. They stretch for about 5 miles along the coast, and on a clear day you can see the Aran Islands. The visitor center is actually built into the hillside, so it doesn't ruin the view. Pro tip: walk south toward Hag's Head for fewer crowds and even better views. The cliffs are named after an old fort called Mother that used to stand there. The Wild Atlantic Way. This is literally one of the longest coastal driving routes in the world. 1,500 miles of the most dramatic coastline you'll ever see, running from Donegal in the north all the way down to Cork. It was officially launched in 2014, but these roads have connected coastal communities for centuries. You'll pass fishing villages, ancient ruins, and beaches that look tropical until you touch the water. I took 2 weeks and still only covered half of it. The Ring of Kerry, this 111-mile loop around the Ivrak Peninsula, every turn is literally a postcard. It passes through traditional villages like Sneem and Kenmare, alongside mountains, lakes, and beaches. Tour buses have to go counterclockwise because the roads are so narrow. The route has been a tourist favorite since Victorian times, when wealthy travelers would take horse-drawn carriages around it. Ladies' View got its name because Queen Victoria's ladies-in-waiting were so impressed by the vista there in 1861. Connemara's Wild Beauty. This is in County Galway, and it's Ireland at its most untamed. Mountains, lakes, and not another soul for miles. The 12 Bens mountain range dominates the landscape, and the bogs are this incredible rust and gold color. Connemara ponies, a native breed, still roam semi-wild here. The region is a Gaeltacht area where Irish is the primary language. Kilmore Abbey, this stunning Victorian castle, sits reflected in a lake against the mountains. It was built in 1868 as a romantic gift. The Bin, it's like walking on the moon, but in Ireland. This limestone landscape in County Clare covers about 100 square miles of cracked, grey rock. The name comes from the Irish boron, meaning great rock. A Cromwellian officer in the 1600s said it had not enough water to drown a man, wood enough to hang one, nor earth enough to bury him. But here's the thing: wildflowers somehow grow in the cracks, including Arctic and Mediterranean species growing side by side. It's also covered in ancient tombs and ring forts. Giant's Causeway, nature's most perfect hexagons. Mind-blowing. About 40,000 interlocking basalt columns, formed by volcanic activity 60 million years ago in County Antrim. Some columns are over 40 feet tall. Legend says the giant Finn McCool built it to walk to Scotland to fight another giant. When he saw how big his opponent was, he ran back and had his wife disguise him as a baby. The Scottish giant saw the baby and fled, thinking the father must be enormous. The causeway was declared a World Heritage Site in 1986. Skellig Michael, where they filmed Star Wars, and yes, it's worth the boat ride even if you get seasick like I did. This jagged rock island rises 700 feet out of the Atlantic, 7 miles off the Kerry coast. Irish monks established a monastery there in the 6th century and lived in stone beehive huts, which are still standing. They climbed 600 steps carved into the rock every day. The monastery was abandoned in the 12th century when storms became too severe. It's one of the most important early Christian sites in Europe. Killarney National Park, Ireland's first national park, created in 1932. Waterfalls, ancient oak forests, and actual wild red deer, Ireland's only remaining native herd. The park covers over 25,000 acres and includes 3 lakes. Torque Waterfall drops 60 feet, and you can walk right up to it. Macross House, a Victorian mansion, sits inside the park and was built in 1843. The park also has the only remaining native oak woodland in Ireland. I spent 3 days there and barely scratched the surface. The Dingle Peninsula, rugged cliffs meeting turquoise water that honestly looks Caribbean until you dip your toe in. This is County Kerry's more laid-back peninsula, with Mount Brandon, named after St. Brendan the Navigator, towering over everything. The Sleehead Drive takes you past ancient beehive huts, Ogham stones with ancient Irish script, and beaches like Inch Strand that stretch for miles. Dingle Town is the main hub, famous for Fungie the dolphin, who lived in the harbor for 37 years until 2020. The whole peninsula is a Gaeltacht where Irish is widely spoken. Wicklow Mountains, the Garden of Ireland, and it absolutely lives up to the name. Just south of Dublin, these rounded mountains are covered in heather and dotted with quarry lakes formed by glaciers. Glendalough, the Valley of 2 Lakes, has a 6th century monastic settlement founded by Saint Kevin, who allegedly lived in a cave and was so holy that a blackbird laid eggs in his outstretched hand. The round tower there is 100 feet tall and over 1,000 years old. The Wicklow Way is a 79-mile hiking trail that takes you through the Irish are genuinely the friendliest people on earth. I'm not exaggerating. There's this cultural value called Seed Mile Fealty, which means 100,000 welcomes. It's not just a saying, it's how they actually live. I had a flat tire on a country road, and 3 cars stopped to help within 5 minutes. This warmth comes from centuries of community-based living where neighbors relied on each other for survival. Even in cities like Dublin, people will chat with you at bus stops and actually mean it when they ask how you're doing. Random pub conversations that last for hours. You'll sit down for 1 pint and suddenly you're deep in conversation about everything from local hurling matches to philosophy to your family tree. It's part of a pub culture that dates back centuries when pubs were the social centers of communities. I once spent 4 hours talking to a farmer about sheep breeds, Brexit, and the best way to make brown bread. Time just disappears. There's no rush, no checking phones constantly, just genuine connection. Everyone has a story, and they will tell you. Irish oral tradition goes back thousands of years to the Shanahy, professional storytellers who memorized genealogies and legends. That tradition is still alive. The guy at the corner shop will tell you about his grandfather's farm. The woman at the B&B will explain the history of the stone walls. Every person you meet has lived a full life and can narrate it beautifully, often with perfect comic timing. The crack, it's not just fun, it's an art form, pronounced crack. This Irish word means fun, but it's so much more. It's the atmosphere, the banter, the music, the laughs all combined. What's the crack? Means what's going on. Or how are things? Having good crack is the ultimate goal of any social gathering. It's a concept that doesn't translate perfectly to other cultures because it's specifically Irish. This combination of humor, music, storytelling, and genuine connection all at once. You'll get invited to a local's house for dinner. It will happen. Irish hospitality is legendary. I mentioned to a woman in a shop that I couldn't find real brown bread in restaurants, and she invited me to her house that evening to teach me how to make it. This tradition of welcoming strangers comes from ancient Brehon laws that made hospitality a legal requirement. Refusing hospitality, or being an ungracious host, was considered shameful. That ethos is still deeply embedded in the culture. Irish humor, dry, witty, and absolutely hilarious. Irish humor is self-deprecating, clever, and often involves wordplay. It's a humor born from centuries of surviving hardship, Making light of dark situations was a coping mechanism. Sarcasm is a love language here. The Irish will insult their best friends mercilessly, and everyone laughs because it's a sign of affection. There's also a tradition of slagging, teasing and banter that can seem harsh to outsiders, but is actually how Irish people show they like you. The music sessions in tiny village pubs. These aren't performances, they're sessions. Informal gatherings where musicians show up with instruments and play traditional tunes together. No sheet music, just tunes passed down through generations. The tradition goes back centuries when music was how news, history, and culture were shared. Every region has slightly different styles. You'll see a 70-year-old fiddler playing alongside a teenager on tin whistle, both knowing hundreds of tunes by heart. It usually starts around 9 p.m., and there's no set end time. How strangers become friends in about 5 minutes. There's something about Irish culture that breaks down social barriers immediately. Maybe it's the lack of pretension. Maybe it's the shared love of conversation and crack. I was standing in line for coffee, and by the time I reached the counter, I'd been invited to a family reunion the following weekend by the woman behind me. The Celtic concept of kinship extends beyond blood relations to anyone who shares your company. The storytelling tradition. Everyone's a natural-born narrator, from ancient Celtic bards to modern-day pub talkers. Storytelling is in the Irish DNA. Ireland has produced some of the world's greatest writers, Joyce, Yeats, Wilde, Beckett, and that literary tradition infuses everyday conversation. People don't just tell you what happened. They narrate it with perfect pacing, dramatic pauses, and vivid details. Even a trip to the grocery store becomes an epic tale when an Irish person tells it. They'll give you directions that include landmarks from 1842. Ask for directions and you'll get go past where Murphy's Pub used to be. Take a left to the third fairy tree. Don't cut it down now. And if you reach the field where the British soldiers camped in 1798, you've gone too far. No street names, no GPS coordinates. Just local knowledge passed down through generations. It's bewildering and charming in equal measure. Sometimes the landmark is a big rock, and somehow you'll know exactly which rock they mean when you see it. Guinness tastes different in Ireland. I don't make the rules. This is scientifically disputed but emotionally true for everyone who visits. Guinness has been brewed at St. James's Gate in Dublin since 1759, when Arthur Guinness signed a 9,000-year lease for £45 a year. The stout is made with water from the Wicklow Mountains, roasted barley, hops, and yeast. Fresh Guinness that hasn't traveled thousands of miles just tastes better, creamier, smoother, less bitter. The perfect pour takes 119.5 seconds in 2 parts. Irish bartenders are trained extensively in the pour. And yes, the shamrock in the foam is standard. Irish breakfast, it's called a fry, and it'll fuel you for days. This is not a light meal. A full Irish fry includes bacon, back bacon, not American bacon, sausages, black pudding, blood sausage, white pudding, similar but without blood, eggs, grilled tomatoes, mushrooms, baked beans, and toast or soda bread. Some places add hash browns or potato farls. It originated as a hearty meal for farmers who needed energy for long days of physical labor. Now it's a weekend tradition and a hangover cure. The breakfast is cooked in butter or bacon fat, and nothing is held back. 1 fry, and I wasn't hungry until dinner. Fresh seafood right off the boat. With 1,900 miles of coastline, Irish seafood is incredible. Oysters from Galway Bay have been famous since Roman times. Dublin Bay prawns, Atlantic salmon, mussels from Bantry Bay, crab from Howth. Fishing villages have tiny restaurants where the catch was swimming that morning. I had fish so fresh in Dingle that the menu was written on a chalkboard because it changed based on what the boats brought in that day. Ireland's cold Atlantic waters produce seafood with incredible flavor. No fancy preparation needed, just butter and lemon. Boxty, potato pancakes that'll change your life. This traditional Irish potato pancake is made from grated raw potatoes, mashed potatoes, flour, and buttermilk. The name might come from Aaron Bochty, meaning poorhouse bread, because it was peasant food that stretched ingredients. There's an old saying, boxty on the griddle, boxty in the pan. If you can't make boxty, you'll never get a man. It originated in the North Midlands but spread nationwide during the famine when potatoes were the primary food. Served with butter melting on top or stuffed with various fillings. Crispy edges, fluffy center, pure comfort. Real Irish soda bread, still warm from the oven. This is Ireland's most iconic bread, made with just 4 ingredients: flour, buttermilk, salt, and baking soda, bicarbonate of soda. No yeast, so it doesn't need time to rise. It was invented in the 1830s when baking soda became widely available. The cross cut into the top wasn't just decorative. Folklore says it lets the fairies out or wards off evil spirits, but practically it helps the bread cook evenly. Traditional soda bread is made with wholemeal flour and is dense and hearty. The sweet white version with raisins you see abroad isn't authentic. Best eaten warm with Irish butter and jam. Afternoon tea with proper scones and jam. Irish afternoon tea is a serious affair, and it's different from the fancy English version. It typically includes fresh-baked scones served warm with clotted cream and homemade jam, plus an array of finger sandwiches, pastries, and cakes. The scone debate is real: jam first or cream first. In Ireland, most go cream first, then jam. The tradition became popular in grand houses and hotels during the Victorian era. Places like the Merrion Hotel in Dublin or Ashford Castle serve it with silver tea services and fine china. But honestly, the best scones I had were at a small B&B in County Cork, where the owner baked them fresh every morning. Light, fluffy, and gone in seconds. Fish and chips wrapped in paper, eaten by the sea. Leo Burdock's in Dublin has been serving fish and chips since 1913, but every coastal town has their spot. Traditional Irish fish and chips uses fresh cod or haddock in a light, crispy batter, served with thick-cut chips, fries, and sometimes mushy peas. The tradition came from Italian immigrants who opened chippers across Ireland in the early 1900s. The best experience is getting it wrapped in paper, sitting on a harbor wall in Howth or Kinsale, with seagulls eyeing your meal and salt spray in the air. The fish was probably caught that morning. Add malt vinegar and you've got perfection. It's simple food done absolutely right. Irish whiskey. Smooth, complex, perfect. Irish whiskey is triple distilled. Most Scotch is only distilled twice, which makes it smoother and less smoky. The tradition goes back to at least the 12th century when monks first distilled it. The word whiskey comes from the Irish Yus Bitha, meaning water of life. Bushmills, founded in 1608, is the oldest licensed distillery in the world. Jameson is the most famous globally, but try Redbreast, Powers, or smaller craft distilleries like Dingle or Teeling. The industry nearly died out in the 20th century. By 1980, there were only 2 distilleries left, but it's experiencing a massive revival now with over 40 distilleries operating. Kerrygold butter on everything. This isn't just marketing hype. Irish butter is different because Irish cows graze on grass year-round thanks to the mild climate. Kerrygold's bright yellow color comes from beta-carotene in the grass. The cooperative was founded in 1962 by Irish dairy farmers and revolutionized Irish agriculture. Irish butter has a higher butterfat content, about 82% compared to 80% in most American butter, and a richer, more complex flavor. It's cultured, meaning it has a slightly tangy taste. I watched my Irish host spread it on soda bread in layers, so thick I could see her fingerprints. "That's how you know you've used enough," she said. She was right. The cheese. Seriously, Irish farmhouse cheese is incredible. Ireland's artisan cheese movement exploded in the 1970s when Veronica Steele made the first Millings cheese on the Beara Peninsula. Now there are over 150 artisan cheese producers. Cashel Blue, a creamy blue cheese from Tipperary. Durris, a washed rind cheese from West Cork. Coolia, a Gouda-style cheese that's nutty and sharp. Gubbeen, another washed rind that's been made since 1980. Most are from small family farms using traditional methods, and milk from grass-fed cows. The English market in Cork has an entire section devoted to Irish cheeses where you can taste before buying. Pair it with Irish whiskey marmalade and oat crackers. You'll never look at cheese the same way. Pubs aren't just bars, they're community centers. Irish pubs evolved from ancient drinking houses where travelers would stop for ale and rest. By the 1700s, they were the heart of every community, part bar, part restaurant, part meeting hall, part post office, sometimes even part grocery store. Many pubs still have the original Victorian snob screens, etched glass partitions, wooden church pews for seating, and shelves full of old bottles. Locals have their seat, where they sit every visit. Town meetings happen here. Wakes are held here. business deals are made here. Sean's Bar in Athlone claims to be the oldest pub in Ireland, dating to 900 AD. They found wattle and wicker walls from that period. Whether that's true or not, the point is, pubs are sacred spaces in Irish culture. Live traditional music every single night. Not just in tourist pubs. In tiny villages of 300 people, there's live music. Traditional sessions are free, and usually start around 9 or 9:30 p.m. Musicians play sets of reels, jigs, hornpipes, and polkas that are hundreds of years old. The tunes have names like The Butterfly, The Silver Spear, and The Siege of Ennis. In Doolin, County Clare, there are 3 famous music pubs, O'Connor's, McGann's, and McDermott's, with sessions every single night. Ennis has musicians busking on every corner during the day. The music is passed down orally. Many traditional musicians never learn to read sheet music. They just play by ear, following each other through complex tunes at lightning speed. The fireplace in an old country pub on a rainy day, there's something primal and perfect about it. Most traditional pubs have a turf fire, peat fire, burning in a stone fireplace, even in summer if it's damp. The smell is earthy and sweet, completely unique to Ireland. Turf has been used for fuel in Ireland for thousands of years, cut from bogs and dried in the sun. You'll claim the seat closest to the fire, dry off, order a whiskey or a Guinness, and just exist in that moment. The combination of warmth, the smell of burning turf, the sound of rain on windows, and quiet conversation makes you understand why the Irish never rush anything. Time moves differently next to a turf fire. Singing along to songs you don't know the words to, this happens without fail in every Irish pub. Someone starts The Wild Rover, or a Galway Girl, or Whiskey in the Jar, and suddenly the entire pub is singing, including you even though you only know half the words. Irish pub songs are designed to be participatory, repetitive choruses that you can pick up on the second go-round. Molly Malone, Dublin's unofficial anthem, is sung with genuine emotion even though everyone's heard it 1,000 times. Traditional rebel songs like The Fields of Athenry about the Great Famine will make grown men cry into their pints. It's not performance, it's communal expression. You don't need to know all the words, the passion covers the gaps. The Snug, a cozy little private area in old pubs, these tiny enclosed booths with their own door were a Victorian addition to pubs, originally created for women who wanted to drink without being seen in the main bar. It wasn't socially acceptable at the time. They were also used by clergy, politicians, or anyone conducting private business. The Snug usually sits beside the bar with a small window where you could order drinks without entering the main room. Most have been removed to create more space, but some traditional pubs still have them. The Palace Bar in Dublin, Dick Mack's in Dingle, John Mulligan's in Dublin. Claiming the Snug feels like finding a secret room. It seats maybe 4 to 6 people maximum. Private, cozy, and historically significant. Pub quizzes that get surprisingly competitive. These happen weekly in pubs all over Ireland, usually on slower weeknights like Tuesday or Wednesday. Teams of 4 to 6 people compete through rounds of questions covering current events, Irish history, sports, music, geography, and truly random trivia. The prizes are usually modest, a round of drinks or €50, but you'd think people were competing for thousands based on the intensity. There will be arguments over answers, demands for the quizmaster to double-check, and celebrations that shake the building when a team wins. It's serious business. I joined a team in Galway and we came in dead last, but I learned more about Irish culture in those 2 hours than I had in a week of sightseeing. The bartender knows everyone's name and story. In local pubs, not the touristy temple bar spots, the bartender is part therapist, part historian, part community memory keeper. They know who's going through a divorce, whose daughter just had a baby, who needs a ride home. Often they've been working there for decades, or it's a family business passed down through generations. They'll pour your drink before you order it because they remember what you had last time. They know which customers can't sit next to each other due to a decades-old argument. They're the glue that holds the community together. I watched a bartender in Westport mediate a dispute about cattle, pour 15 perfect pints simultaneously, and recite a poem from memory, all in the span of 10 minutes. No one judges if you show up at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. Day drinking isn't considered problematic in Irish culture the way it might be elsewhere. Pubs are open from around 10:30 a.m., and it's perfectly acceptable to stop in for a pint in the afternoon. Farmers come in after market. Retirees meet for lunch and a drink. Remote workers take afternoon breaks. It's not about getting drunk, it's about socializing, taking a break, being part of the community. The cultural difference is that drinking is social, not solitary. Having 1 or 2 pints in the afternoon with conversation is normal. Sitting alone at home drinking is concerning. The pub is about connection, not alcohol, though the alcohol certainly helps. The wooden everything, floors, beams, bars that are centuries old, step into pubs like the Brazen Head in Dublin, Ireland's oldest pub, established 1198, or the Long Valley in Cork, and you're surrounded by dark wood polished smooth by centuries of hands. The bar itself is usually a massive piece of mahogany or oak. Wooden floors creak with history. Ceiling beams are original, often hand-hewn. Wooden snob screens, wooden booths, wooden shelves behind the bar holding bottles and curiosities. Everything is dark from age and smoke from back when indoor smoking was allowed. Nothing is renovated to look old. It actually is old. You can feel the weight of history in these spaces. Every scratch and stain has a story. You can actually have a conversation without shouting. Unlike modern bars with pounding music and concrete walls that echo, traditional Irish pubs have low ceilings, carpets, upholstered seats, curtains, and wood everywhere, all of which absorb sound. Even with a full pub and live music in the corner, you can have a normal conversation at your table. The architecture and design naturally create good acoustics. Music is played at reasonable volumes. People talk, they don't yell. The pub is designed for conversation first, drinking second. This is intentional. Pubs are where communities connect, where stories are told, where business is done. None of that works if you can't hear the person next to you. Castles. So many castles. Ireland has over 30,000 castle sites, though many are ruins. They range from massive fortresses like Blarney Castle, built 1446, where you kiss the Blarney Stone for eloquence, to tower houses that were essentially fortified homes for wealthy families. Bunratty Castle in Clare has been completely restored and looks exactly as it did in the 15th century, complete with medieval banquets. Trim Castle in Meath is where they filmed Braveheart. Many castles are now hotels. You can literally sleep in a castle. The concentration of castles reflects Ireland's turbulent history of clan warfare, Norman invasion, and English conquest. Every powerful family needed fortification. Now they did the landscape, romantic and crumbling, reminders of a violent past. Newgrange, older than Stonehenge and the pyramids, this prehistoric monument in County Meath was built around 3200 BC, making it about 500 years older than the Great Pyramid of Giza and 1,000 years older than Stonehenge. It's a passage tomb with a 60-foot corridor leading to a central chamber. Here's the incredible part. It's engineered so that at sunrise on the winter solstice, December 21st, sunlight shines directly through a special opening above the entrance, flooding the inner chamber with light for exactly 17 minutes. This has happened every year for 5,000 years. Nobody knows exactly how the Neolithic people achieved this astronomical precision. The tomb is decorated with spiral carvings called megalithic art. Only about 50 people are allowed in for the solstice event each year, chosen by lottery. Ancient monastic sites like Glendalough. In the 6th century, St. Kevin founded a monastery in this glacial valley in Wicklow. By the 12th century, Glendalough was one of Ireland's most important pilgrimage sites with thousands of students and monks. What remains is extraordinary. A perfectly intact 100-foot round tower built 900–1100 AD as a bell tower and defensive refuge, a cathedral, several small churches, Celtic crosses, and hundreds of graves. The round tower's door is 10 feet off the ground. Monks would climb a ladder then pull it up when Vikings attacked. The site sits between 2 lakes in a valley that looks untouched by time. Deer wander through. Monks lived here for 600 years. You can feel that history in your bones. Viking history in Dublin. Dublin was founded by Vikings in 841 AD as a trading post and base for raiding. The name Dublin comes from Dublin, meaning black pool in Irish, but the Vikings called it Dyflin. They established a major settlement where the modern city centre now stands. At Dublinia Museum, you can walk through recreations of Viking Dublin, see actual artifacts found during excavations, and learn how Vikings shaped Irish culture. They introduced new trade routes, shipbuilding techniques, and urban planning. The medieval city walls and street layouts still follow Viking patterns. Christchurch Cathedral, founded by Viking King Sitric in 1028, still stands. Irish surnames beginning with Mac are Celtic, but many others like MacAuliffe have Norse origins. Medieval towns with original city walls, walking through towns like Kilkenny, Waterford, or Derry/Londonderry, you're literally walking beside stone walls built in the 13th to 15th centuries. Derry has the most complete city walls in Ireland and Britain. You can walk the entire 1.5-kilometer circumference on top of walls that are 26 feet high and up to 35 feet thick. They were built 1613 to 1619 and have never been breached, hence Derry's nickname, the Maiden City. Waterford's Viking Triangle has sections of 10th century walls. Medieval gates and towers still stand, some converted to museums or shops. These weren't decorative, they were defensive fortifications in a time of constant warfare. Standing on these walls, you see the city exactly as medieval guards saw it. The Book of Kells, an actual 1,200-year-old illuminated manuscript. This is one of the world's most famous medieval manuscripts, created around 800 AD by Celtic monks. It's a Latin copy of the four Gospels with artwork so intricate that some details are invisible to the naked eye. There are 680 pages of vellum, calfskin, and many pages have elaborate illustrations with gold leaf, lapis lazuli, and other precious materials. The detail is insane. One illustrated page might contain 158 intertwined dogs, birds, and humans in perfect symmetry. It survived Viking raids, theft, and centuries of turmoil. Now it's displayed at Trinity College Dublin in a climate-controlled case. They turn to a new page every day. You stand in line to see 2 pages, and it's absolutely worth it. The artistry is breathtaking. Stone circles scattered across the countryside. Ireland has over 200 known stone circles, most dating from the Bronze Age, 2500 to 500 BC. Drombeg Stone Circle in Cork is the most visited, 17 standing stones in a perfect circle with one stone aligned to the winter solstice sunset. Nobody knows their exact purpose. Astronomical observatory, ceremonial site, burial marker, all 3. Many stone circles are in farmers' fields with no fences or entrance fees, you just park and walk up to them. I stood in the center of one in Kerry at sunset, alone except for sheep, and felt connected to something ancient and unknowable. These stones were placed by people who left no written records, only these silent monuments. Ruins you can just walk up to and touch. This shocks Americans used to everything being roped off. In Ireland, medieval abbeys, castle ruins, and ancient churches are just there. In fields, by the side of the road. No entrance fee, no gift shop, often no signage. Ross Airlie Friary in Galway is one of the best preserved medieval monasteries in Ireland. You can walk through cloisters, up spiral staircases, into monks' cells. Nobody stops you. Same with hundreds of tower houses, old churches, abandoned estates. The lack of commercialization is refreshing but also a bit nerve-wracking. You feel the weight of responsibility not to damage something that survived 800 years. It speaks to an Irish attitude that history belongs to everyone. Every stone has witnessed 1,000 years of history. This isn't metaphorical. Ireland's history is visible everywhere. That stone wall dividing fields, built during the famine in the 1840s as makework relief. That church ruin, dissolved by Henry VIII in 1536. That castle, built by the Normans in 1235, attacked in 1642, burned in 1691. Irish people know this history intimately. It's not academic, it's personal. My great-great-grandfather helped build that wall during the famine. Walking through Ireland is walking through living history. The layers are visible, tangible, and deeply felt. The stories behind every castle and ruin. Leap Castle is said to be Ireland's most haunted castle. It has an oubliette dungeon, where prisoners were dropped onto spikes, and hundreds of skeletons were found there. Dunluce Castle in Antrim is perched on cliffs, so dramatically that part of the kitchen fell into the sea during a storm in 1639, taking 7 servants with it. Malahide Castle was owned by the Talbot family for 791 years. Grace O'Malley, the Pirate Queen, attacked Howth Castle when she was denied hospitality, kidnapped the heir, and forced them to promise to always set an extra place at dinner. They still do. Every ruin has stories of battles, betrayals, love affairs, and ghosts. Irish guides tell these stories with such detail and passion that history becomes real. Temple Bar, touristy but genuinely fun. Yes, it's the most touristy part of Dublin. Yes, drinks cost more. But there's a reason tourists flock here. Temple Bar is a cobblestone cultural quarter on the south bank of the River Liffey, named after Sir William Temple, who owned land here in the 1600s. In the 1980s, it was slated for demolition to build a bus depot, so landlords rented buildings cheaply to artists and cultural organizations. When the bus depot plan was abandoned, this creative community had already transformed the area. Now it's packed with galleries, theaters, vintage shops, restaurants, and pubs with live music spilling onto the streets. The Temple Bar pub itself, the red one in all the photos, dates to 1840 and has live traditional music every night. Saturday mornings, there's a food market. It's crowded and expensive, but the energy is electric, especially at night. Trinity College's campus, pure Harry Potter vibes, founded in 1592 by Queen Elizabeth I. Trinity College is Ireland's oldest university and sits on 47 acres in the heart of Dublin. Walking through the cobblestone quadrangles, surrounded by Georgian buildings, feels like stepping into another century. The Campanile Bell Tower, 1853, stands in the center of Parliament Square. The Long Room Library is what everyone comes for. It's 65 meters long with a barrel-vaulted ceiling, two-story shelves holding 200,000 of Trinity's oldest books, and marble busts of philosophers and writers lining the hall. It looks exactly like the Jedi archives in Star Wars because they modeled it on the Long Room. Oscar Wilde, Samuel Beckett, Bram Stoker, and Jonathan Swift all studied here. You can walk the same paths they walked. Students still wear academic gowns for formal occasions. The Guinness Storehouse with 360 degrees views of Dublin, located at St. James's Gate Brewery, where Guinness has been brewed since 1759, the storehouse is Ireland's most visited tourist attraction. The building is shaped like a giant pint glass, 7 floors around a central atrium that would hold 14.3 million pints if filled. You learn everything about Guinness. The ingredients, the brewing process, the advertising campaigns, those iconic toucan posters, the cooperage, barrel making, and Arthur Guinness himself, who had 11 children and revolutionized Dublin's water supply. The top floor is the gravity bar, where your ticket includes a complimentary pint. Floor-to-ceiling windows offer 360-degree views across Dublin. You can see the Wicklow Mountains, Dublin Bay, and the entire city spread out below. Sipping Guinness while watching the sun set over Dublin is a moment I'll never forget. Georgian doors, every color of the rainbow. Dublin's Georgian architecture dates from 1714 to 1830, when the city was redesigned and expanded. The terraced townhouses have a distinctive style: red brick, tall windows, decorative fanlights above the doors, and those famous colorful doors. Why so colorful? Nobody knows for certain. One legend says it started during Victorian mourning periods when Queen Victoria died. One rebellious homeowner painted their door bright red, and it caught on. Another theory is that it helped drunk husbands find the right house at night. More likely, it was simply fashion and individual expression in an otherwise uniform streetscape. Marion Square and Fitzwilliam Square have the best examples: bright blue, red, yellow, green, purple doors with brass knockers and doorknobs polished to a shine. Each one is unique, and they've become an iconic Dublin symbol. St. Stephen's Green, a perfect city park. This 22-acre Victorian park sits right in Dublin's city centre, surrounded by Georgian buildings. It was privately owned until 1877, when Arthur Guinness, yes, that Guinness family, pushed for it to become a public park. There's a lake with ducks and swans, ornamental gardens, sculptures, and fountains. The park has a darker history too. During the 1916 Easter Rising, Irish rebels dug trenches here and fought British soldiers. A ceasefire was called twice daily so the park keeper could feed the ducks, because even during revolution, priorities matter. Now office workers eat lunch on the grass, tourists rest their feet, and street performers entertain crowds at the gates. On sunny days, rare but glorious, the entire city seems to migrate here. It's an oasis of green in the middle of urban Dublin. The street performers on Grafton Street. Grafton Street is Dublin's main shopping thoroughfare, a pedestrian street running from Trinity College to St. Stephen's Green. But the real attraction is the buskers. On any given day, you'll see classical violinists, traditional Irish musicians, living statues, singers, dancers, magicians, and artists. Some are students earning money, others are professional performers. Many famous Irish musicians started busking on Grafton Street, including Glenn Hansard from the movie Once and Damien Rice. There's even a bronze statue of Molly Malone, Dublin's fictional fishmonger from the famous song, and tourists line up to take photos with her. The energy is incredible, music echoing off buildings, crowds gathering around talented performers, the buzz of a city that loves entertainment. It's free, spontaneous culture. Dublin's literary history, Joyce, Wilde, Yeats. Dublin has produced 4 Nobel Prize winners for literature, Yeats, Shaw, Beckett, Heaney, and countless other literary giants. James Joyce's Ulysses takes place entirely in Dublin on June 16, 1904, now celebrated as Bloomsday with people retracing Leopold Bloom's steps through the city. Oscar Wilde was born at 21 Westland Row. Bram Stoker, Dracula, worked at Dublin Castle. Jonathan Swift, Gulliver's Travels, was Dean of St. Patrick's Cathedral. Brendan Behan, Sean O'Casey, Roddy Doyle, Maeve Binchy, the list goes on. Dublin is a UNESCO City of Literature. You can take literary pub crawls where actors perform scenes in the pubs where writers drank. The Dublin Writers' Museum chronicles 300 years of literary history. For book lovers, Dublin is sacred ground. The cobblestone streets in Old Dublin, Temple Bar, the Liberties, parts of Smithfield, these neighborhoods retain their original cobblestone streets, some dating back centuries. Cobblestones, called setts technically, were laid by hand, often by poorly paid workers during various periods of Dublin's development. They're bumpy, uneven, terrible for high heels and suitcase wheels, but absolutely beautiful. When it rains often, they glisten and reflect the pub lights and street lamps. The sound of footsteps on cobblestones, the rattle of delivery carts, the way old buildings lean slightly over narrow streets, it all creates this atmospheric sense of walking through history. Modern Dublin has paved over most cobblestones for practical reasons, which makes the remaining streets even more special. Markets selling everything from vintage clothes to gourmet food. Dublin has fantastic markets. The Georgia Street Arcade, 1881, is a beautiful covered Victorian market with vintage clothing, vinyl records, fortune tellers, jewelry, and quirky boutiques. The Dublin Flea Market at the Chocolate Factory happens monthly with vintage everything, antiques, art, and food. Temple Bar Food Market on Saturdays has artisan foods, Irish cheeses, fresh oysters, craft chocolate, organic vegetables, homemade chutneys, and jams. The Ive Market, 1906, in the Liberties is being restored. These aren't sanitized tourist markets. They're real, eclectic, and full of Dubliners shopping alongside visitors. You'll find treasures, vintage Aran sweaters, antique Irish linens, rare books, handmade jewelry. Bring cash and be ready to haggle a bit. You can walk almost everywhere. Dublin is compact and walkable. Trinity College to the Guinness Storehouse is about 2.5 kilometers, 1.5 miles. The city center contains most major attractions within a 3 kilometers radius. Unlike sprawling modern cities, Dublin developed organically over centuries, so everything is relatively close together. The Liffey River runs through the center, and you can orient yourself by it. North of the Liffey has O'Connell Street and the General Post Office, site of the 1916 Rising. South of the Liffey has Temple Bar, Trinity College, and the shopping districts. There are buses and the DART, Dublin Area Rapid Transit train, but honestly, walking is best. You discover hidden bookshops, tiny pubs, street art, and architectural details you'd miss otherwise. Wear comfortable shoes and just wander. Traditional Irish music is hypnotic in person. Irish traditional music has been passed down orally for centuries, evolving from ancient Celtic traditions. It's modal rather than following typical Western scales, which gives it that distinctive, sometimes melancholic sound. The music served multiple purposes historically, entertainment obviously, but also storytelling through songs and ballads, dance accompaniment, and preserving history and culture during times when the Irish language was suppressed. Hearing it live is completely different from recordings. The energy, the speed, the interplay between musicians who are reading each other's subtle cues, it's thrilling. Fast reels make you want to dance even if you don't know how. Slow airs break your heart. It's hypnotic, transporting, and deeply emotional. The bodhrán drum keeping perfect rhythm. This is the traditional Irish frame drum, pronounced bodhrán. It's a circular wooden frame, usually 14 to 18 inches diameter, with goatskin stretched across one side. The player holds it vertically and strikes it with a double-headed stick called a tipper or tsipin, creating rhythms that drive the music forward. The bodhrán likely descended from ancient Celtic drums or battle shields used as drums. It wasn't really considered a proper, traditional instrument until the 1960s folk revival, but now it's essential. Good bodhrán players are mesmerizing. They create complex rhythms, change tones by pressing their hand against the skin from inside, and match the energy of whatever tune is being played. The sound is earthy and primal, the heartbeat of Irish music. Fiddles, tin whistles, and accordions in perfect harmony. The fiddle, violin played in traditional style, is the most common melody instrument in Irish music. Tin whistles are simple 6-hole flutes, affordable and portable. Every Irish kid learns to play one in school. Button accordions were brought by Italian immigrants in the 1800s and became integral to Irish music. Then there are uilleann pipes, Irish bagpipes, pronounced illn, banjos, flutes, concertinas. What's magical is watching musicians who've never played together fall into perfect synchronization. They know the same repertoire of hundreds of tunes. The Kesh jig, the Drowsy Maggie, the Mason's Apron, learned by ear, not sheet music. Someone starts a tune, and others join in, harmonizing, adding variations, each playing slightly different ornamentations but somehow creating one coherent sound. Everyone eventually joins in the singing. Even if you came to quietly nurse your pint, you'll end up singing. Irish ballads are designed to be communal, simple melodies, repetitive choruses, topics everyone can relate to: love, loss, rebellion, drinking the sea. The Wild Rover has you shouting no, nay, never after one chorus. Galway Girl gets the whole pub bouncing. The Parting Glass is sung at the end of nights, a beautiful farewell song that's been sung for 400 years. Nobody cares if you're off-key or don't know all the words. The point is participation, community, shared experience. I'm terrible at singing, and I still found myself arm in arm with strangers, belting out songs at midnight. It's pure joy. Modern Irish artists blending traditional and contemporary sounds. Irish music isn't stuck in the past. Artists like the Chieftains brought traditional music to global audiences in the 1960s. The Dubliners made folk music rebellious and working class. In the 90s, bands like the Cranberries and U2 incorporated Irish influences into rock. Now artists like Hozier blend soul, blues, and Irish folk. Lisa Hannigan, Glenn Hansard, Damien Rice write contemporary songs with traditional sensibilities. The Gloaming is a supergroup mixing traditional Irish with jazz and experimental sounds. The High Kings and Alton keep pure traditional music thriving. There's a vibrant Irish hip-hop scene, Reggie Snow versatile, and electronic music bicep. Irish music is constantly evolving while respecting its roots. Music festivals in tiny villages. Ireland has hundreds of music festivals. Fled Chealna Arian is the world's largest traditional music festival, moving to a different town each year and bringing 400,000 plus visitors. Willie Clancy Summer School in Clare is a week-long celebration of traditional music, dance, and song with workshops and sessions. All Ireland Fled has competitions for young musicians. Electric Picnic is Ireland's biggest contemporary music festival. But smaller festivals are even better. Village pubs hosting weekend music marathons. Everyone camping in fields. Sessions going until dawn. The Festival of Fires in Usneach. Listún Varna Matchmaking Festival. Yes, seriously. Puck Fair where they crown a goat as king for 3 days. Irish people love any excuse for music and celebration. Street musicians who are legitimately world-class. Irish buskers aren't just decent musicians earning spare change. Many are conservatory trained or touring professionals choosing to play on the street. On Grafton Street in Dublin, I heard a violinist playing Bach's Chaconne flawlessly. then switched to traditional Irish reels. In Galway, a guitarist played original compositions that would fit perfectly on an album. Busking is respected in Ireland. It's seen as both livelihood and art form. The busking competition in Galway is a serious affair. Many famous Irish musicians buskied: Glenn Hansard, Damien Rice, Ed Sheeran, okay, he's English, but launched his career busking in Galway. The standard is incredibly high because Irish music culture values skill and authentic performance regardless of venue. The way a sad song can make a whole pub cry, Irish music doesn't shy away from grief. Songs about emigration, the parting glass, the famine, the fields of Athenry, lost love, Danny Boy, death, the Auld Triangle. They're heartbreaking and people sing them with genuine emotion. In a pub in Dingle, I watched a 70-year-old man sing Grace, about Joseph Plunkett, who married Grace Gifford hours before his execution after the 1916 Rising. By the end, half the pub was wiping away tears. There's something cathartic about collective sadness, especially combined with alcohol and community. Irish culture embraces the full spectrum of emotion. Happiness and sorrow aren't opposites, they're intertwined. The music reflects that truth. Then a jig starts and everyone's dancing. Irish traditional dancing, not the formal river dance style, but casual pub dancing, is spontaneous and joyful. Someone starts playing a jig or a reel, and people jump up to dance. Steps are simple: battering, rhythmic footwork, swinging your partner around, linking arms. Nobody cares about technique. The point is movement, energy, fun. Set dancing involves groups of 4 couples doing choreographed patterns, but even non-dancers can muddle through by following others. I've seen 80-year-olds and toddlers dancing together. The contrast is perfect. One moment everyone's silent and crying, the next everyone's leaping around. That's Ireland in a nutshell, ready to embrace both sorrow and joy, often within minutes of each other. You'll buy a tin whistle. You won't learn to play it, but you'll buy it. This is universal tourist behavior in Ireland. Tin whistles cost 10 to 20 euros. They're small and packable, and after hearing them all night you become convinced you can learn. I bought one in Doolin from a shop where the owner was playing along to a session. I practiced for exactly 3 days. The whistle sits on my shelf now, unplayed but treasured, a physical reminder of Irish music nights. Thousands of tourists have the same whistle sitting in their closets. It's not about mastering the instrument, it's about taking a piece of that musical culture home. And who knows, maybe someday you'll actually learn to play Whiskey in the Jar. 71 to 75, the small towns. Galway, bohemian, colorful, artistic. Galway is Ireland's cultural heart, a city that feels like a town, population 85,000. It's where bohemians, artists, students, and musicians congregate. Quay Street and Shop Street are pedestrian lanes lined with colorful buildings, buskers, artists selling paintings, and pubs with music pouring out. The Spanish Arch dates to 1584 when Galway was a major trading port with Spain. Claddagh, the fishing village where the famous Claddagh ring design originated, is now part of the city. Galway has a rebellious spirit. During English rule, it was known for supporting Irish language and culture. Today it's officially bilingual with signs in Irish and English. The Galway International Arts Festival in July transforms the city into a massive celebration of theatre, music, comedy, and visual arts. Street performers everywhere, energy that's electric. Galway is Ireland's free spirit. Kilkenny, medieval magic. This inland city is remarkably well-preserved medieval Ireland. Kilkenny Castle, built in 1195 by the Normans, overlooks the River Nowhere. The castle remained a seat of power for centuries. The Butler family lived there for 600 years and is now open to the public with restored Victorian interiors. The medieval mile connects the castle to St. Canice's Cathedral, 13th century, with its round tower you can climb for panoramic views. Narrow medieval lanes, the Black Abbey, founded 1225, original city walls. Kilkenny looks like a movie set, but it's real. The city was Ireland's medieval capital at various points. Now it's known for craft and design. The Kilkenny Design Centre showcases Irish craftspeople. August brings the Cat Laughs Comedy Festival, one of Europe's best. Kilkenny Alesh from Smithwick's Brewery, established 1710, are brewed here. The city is compact, walkable, and feels like traveling back in time. Kinsale, the gourmet capital with rainbow houses. This harbour town in County Cork is Ireland's official gourmet capital, though that wasn't formalised until the 1970s. It has more restaurants per capita than anywhere else in Ireland, many Michelin-rated. But Kinsale's history is dramatic. In 1601, the Battle of Kinsale was the decisive conflict in the 9 Years' War, ending Gaelic Ireland's independence. In 1915, the Lusitania was torpedoed off Kinsale's coast, pulling America toward World War I. Now it's peaceful and picturesque. Colorful buildings, blues, yellows, pinks, climbing hills around the harbor, narrow medieval streets, and food that's world-class. Fresh seafood, obviously, but also innovative cuisine using local ingredients. October brings the Gourmet Festival. The town is small enough to walk everywhere but sophisticated enough to rival any European food destination. Doolin, music capital and gateway to the Cliffs, this tiny village in County Clare, population 300, is Ireland's traditional music mecca. 3 pubs, O'Connor's, McGann's, and McDermott's, have live music every single night year-round. World-class musicians show up unannounced and join sessions. The village sits right on the wild Atlantic Way, serving as the main access point for the Cliffs of Moher, 10-minute drive, and ferries to the Aran Islands. Despite its size, Doolin has remarkable food, Gus O'Connor's restaurant, roadside tavern, and comfortable accommodation. There's not much else. It's essentially a music village. That's the appeal. You come for the cliffs, you stay for the music, and suddenly it's 2 a.m. and you're singing with people whose names you don't know, but who feel like lifelong friends. Doolin is intimate, authentic, magical. Westport, where the mountains meet the sea. Westport in County Mayo is consistently voted Ireland's best place to live, and you understand why immediately. It's a Georgian planned town, designed in the 1780s by James Wyatt, architect of the British Houses of Parliament, with an octagonal town square, tree-lined promenades along the Carrowbeg River, and perfectly proportioned streets. But what sets Westport apart is the setting. Croagh Patrick, Ireland's holy mountain, 2,500 feet, towers over the town. The mountain has been a pilgrimage site for over 5,000 years. St. Patrick supposedly fasted there for 40 days in 441 AD. On the last Sunday in July, Reek Sunday, 25,000 pilgrims climb it, many barefoot. Clew Bay stretches beyond town with 365 islands, one for each day of the year, legend says. Westport has fantastic restaurants. Matt Malloy's Pub, owned by the Chieftain's flute player, with nightly traditional music, outdoor activities, kayaking, hiking, cycling the Great Western Greenway, and a genuine, welcoming community. It balances tourism and authenticity perfectly. Cork, the real capital, according to Cork people are fiercely proud of their city and genuinely believe it's superior to Dublin. They call it the People's Republic of Cork, with only semi-ironic pride. Ireland's second-largest city, population 210,000, sits on the River Lee, with the city centre on an island between 2 channels. Cork was founded by St. Finbar in the 6th century on marshland. The name comes from Corcac, meaning marsh. The English market, operating since 1788, is a covered Victorian food market with incredible local produce, farmhouse cheeses, fresh fish, traditional butchers, and the Farmgate Cafe upstairs serving lunch made from ingredients purchased downstairs. Cork has produced revolutionaries, Michael Collins, writers, Frank O'Connor, and entertainers, Cillian Murphy. The accent is musical and distinctive. They say boy and girl as terms of endearment regardless of age. The city has festivals constantly, jazz, film, folk comedy, vibrant street art, and a relaxed confidence that's infectious. Killarney, tourist-friendly but genuinely charming. Yes, Killarney is Ireland's most touristy town outside Dublin, but there's a reason it's been a tourist destination since Victorian times. The setting is spectacular. 3 lakes, Loch Lean, Macross Lake, Upper Lake, surrounded by mountains, MacGillycuddy's Reeks, Ireland's highest range. Killarney National Park starts right at the edge of town. The town itself is compact with colorful shop fronts, excellent restaurants, and yes, lots of souvenir shops selling Aran sweaters and shillelaghs. But wander the side streets, and you'll find authentic pubs like Buckley's Bar and the Laurels with music sessions. Jaunting cars, horse-drawn carriages, have been taking tourists around since the 1700s. It's touristy, but also genuinely traditional. Ross Castle, 15th century, and Macross House are easily accessible. Killarney efficiently balances tourism with genuine Irish hospitality. The locals are professional but warm, experienced at making visitors feel welcome without losing their own character. Dingle, Irish-speaking, incredibly authentic. The Dingle Peninsula is a Gaeltacht Irish-speaking region, and the town of Dingle itself switches between English and Irish effortlessly. You'll hear shop transactions in Irish, pub conversations mixing both languages, and signage primarily in Irish. The town has embraced tourism without selling out. Yes, there are tour buses during the day, but they leave by evening and the town returns to locals. Dick Mac's Pub is both a pub and a shoe repair shop, with celebrity names etched into wooden slats outside. Foxy John's is a pub and hardware store. Murphy's Ice Cream uses local ingredients to create unique Irish flavors. The harbor is working. Fishing boats unload catches daily. Fungi the dolphin lived in the harbor for 37 years until mysteriously disappearing in 2020, and locals genuinely mourned. Dingle balances being a tourist destination with being a real working town where people live year-round, speak Irish, fish for a living, and just happen to welcome visitors warmly. Cove, the Titanic's last port of call, pronounced Cove. This harbor town in County Cork is built on a steep hillside with rows of brightly colored houses rising from the waterfront. St. Colman's Cathedral towers over everything. A massive neo-Gothic cathedral with a 47-bell carillon you can hear across the harbor. Cove's history is profound. It was the Titanic's last port of call on April 11, 1912. The Titanic Experience Museum is housed in the original White Star Line ticket office, where 123 passengers boarded. It's also where the Lusitania survivors and victims were brought after the 1915 torpedoing. Over 100 victims are buried in the old church cemetery. Even more significantly, Cove, then called Queenstown, was the departure point for 2.5 million Irish emigrants during the famine and after, leaving for America on coffin ships. The emigration story is told at the Cove Heritage Center. The town's beauty contrasts with these tragic histories, making it a place of reflection and remembrance. Every town has a main street with everything you need. Irish towns follow a similar pattern that evolved over centuries. One main street, often called Main Street or the town's name plus street, with shops, pubs, churches, and services. There's a church, usually Catholic and Protestant, a few pubs, a chipper, fish and chip shop, a SuperValu or Centra grocery, a pharmacy, a post office, often a hardware store, a butcher, and a bakery. That's it. Towns might have 500 to 2,000 people. Everything is walkable. Everyone knows everyone. The main street is a social hub where people stop to chat, exchange news, discuss weather and hurling matches. There's a timelessness to it. These towns function the same way they have for generations. Modern chain stores haven't invaded, except for those grocery stores. It's simple, efficient, and preserves a slower pace of life that's increasingly rare. 81 to 90, the experiences. Sheep, everywhere. Blocking roads without apology. Ireland has roughly 4 million sheep and 5 million people. You will encounter sheep. They graze on hillsides marked with colored paint, blue, red, orange, indicating which farmer owns them. They wander onto roads, especially rural mountain roads, and stop traffic without concern. They travel in flocks, so when one crosses, 20 more follow. They stare at you with those rectangular pupils, chewing cud, utterly unbothered. I once sat in my car for 15 minutes while a farmer slowly herded his flock across the road, chatting with a neighbor the entire time. No rush whatsoever. The sheep are hardy breeds like Scottish Blackface and Cheviot, bred to survive harsh Atlantic weather. Their wool was historically Ireland's primary export. Now they're primarily raised for meat. Irish lamb is exceptional. But they're also iconic. No Ireland photo collection is complete without sheep photobombing your scenic shots. The changing weather, 4 seasons in one day. Ireland's weather is legendarily unpredictable. The Atlantic dominates everything. Warm Gulf Stream currents, prevailing westerly winds bringing rain clouds. The saying, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes, is literally true. I experienced sunshine, rain, hail, fog and back to sunshine within an hour on the Dingle Peninsula. Temperatures are mild year-round, rarely below freezing or above 70 degrees Fahrenheit per 20 degrees Celsius, but conditions change rapidly. This creates those dramatic moments: sunlight breaking through storm clouds, double rainbows, rays of light illuminating green hillsides while rain falls elsewhere. It's why Ireland is so green. It rains about 150 to 225 days per year, depending on location. The West Coast gets the most rain. Locals dress in layers and always carry waterproof jackets. They don't use umbrellas much, too windy. They just accept that weather is what it is. Rainbows after every rain shower. Because of the frequent rain showers followed by immediate sunshine, Ireland has more rainbows than anywhere I've traveled. They're not rare occurrences, they're daily events. Double rainbows are common. Sometimes you'll see a rainbow touch down in the field next to you. The colors are vivid against dark storm clouds. There's an Irish legend that leprechauns hide pots of gold at the end of rainbows, which makes sense when you see how often rainbows appear and how tantalizingly close they seem. I stopped photographing rainbows after day 3 because I had dozens of photos. Locals barely notice them anymore. But for visitors, each one feels magical. The combination of clean Atlantic air, frequent rain, and dramatic lighting creates perfect conditions. Ireland's nickname, the Emerald Isle, might refer to green landscapes, but it could just as easily describe the incredible quality of light after rain. Stone walls dividing every field, built centuries ago, Ireland has an estimated 250,000 miles of stone walls, enough to circle the earth 10 times. They're dry stone walls, meaning no mortar, just stones carefully stacked and interlocked. Many were built during the Great Famine, 1845 to 1852, as relief work. Starving people were given jobs building walls in exchange for food. Others are older, marking property boundaries for centuries. Building them is skilled work. Larger foundation stones, smaller stones toward the top, throughs, long stones, binding both sides together, capstones on top. They've survived because they're flexible. Stones shift slightly in wind and rain, but the structure holds. Walls follow the contours of hills, divide tiny irregular fields, and create Ireland's distinctive patchwork landscape. Moss and lichen cover them. Sheep shelter beside them. They're living history, marking human effort across centuries, and they're absolutely everywhere. Irish dance performances. Beyond River Dance, which revolutionized Irish dance in the 1990s by making it theatrical and sexy. Traditional Irish step dancing is precise, athletic, and beautiful. Dancers keep their upper body and arms rigid while their feet perform incredibly complex, rapid steps. It evolved in the 18th to 19th centuries, possibly influenced by restrictions against Irish culture. Keeping arms down might have made dancing look less celebratory to British authorities. Dance schools, called Irish dancing schools, are everywhere, and competitions, Fiziana, are serious business. Kids compete in elaborate costumes with Celtic designs, their hair in ringlets. Set dancing and ceilidh dancing are social group dances performed in pubs and community halls, less formal but equally fun. Watching professionals perform is mesmerizing, the synchronization, the speed, the percussion of feet creating rhythm. It's uniquely Irish and genuinely thrilling. Taking a boat to the Aran Islands. 3 islands sit in Galway Bay. Innismore largest, Innismean middle, and Innis Oyer smallest. Ferries run from Doolin and Rossaveel, or you can take a puddle jumper plane from Connemara Airport. These are gale-tacked islands where Irish is the primary language. They're rugged, windswept, and feel like stepping back in time. Dry stone walls, ancient ring forts. Duan Éon Hassan, Innismore sits on 300-foot cliffs and dates to 1100 BC. Thatched cottages, and people living traditional lifestyles. Aran sweaters originated here, those cream-colored cable-knit sweaters. Each family had distinctive patterns, so if fishermen drowned and washed ashore, they could be identified by their sweaters. Tourism is the main income now, but it feels authentic. You can rent bikes, explore ruins, hear Irish spoken in shops, and experience an Ireland that's mostly disappeared elsewhere. The boat ride itself is an experience. Atlantic swells, seabirds, cliffs of Maher from the ocean side. Cycling through countryside without seeing a car. Ireland has developed fantastic cycling routes. The Great Western Greenway, 42 kilometers along an old railway line in Mayo. the Waterford Greenway, 46 kilometers, and countless country roads with minimal traffic. These routes pass through farmland, along coasts, through forests, beside rivers. You might cycle for an hour seeing only sheep, stone walls, and the occasional cottage with peat smoke rising from the chimney. The greenways are flat and suitable for families. Country roads are quieter but hillier. E-bikes are widely available for rent now, making Ireland's hills manageable. You stop in tiny villages for lunch at a pub, chat with locals, and continue. The pace is perfect for actually seeing the landscape, too fast for walking, slow enough to notice details. Many people cycle sections of the Wild Atlantic Way. Just remember to bring rain gear and accept that you will get wet. Farm stays where you help feed animals. Irish farm stays, agritourism, let you experience actual farm life. These aren't luxury accommodations. They're working farms where you stay in a farmhouse or cottage, eat meals with the family, and if you want, help with farm work. Feeding sheep and lambs, collecting eggs from chickens, helping herd cattle, learning to make soda bread, foraging for mushrooms, cutting turf from the bog. Farms range from small family operations to larger estates. Many are in Gaeltacht areas where you'll hear Irish spoken. Hosts are genuinely warm, meals feature farm ingredients, and you learn about Irish agriculture and rural life. Kids especially love it. Most have never seen where food actually comes from. Airbnb has many farm stay options, or organizations like Irish Farmhouse Holidays connect visitors with farms. It's authentic, educational, and deeply connecting. Literary pub crawls in Dublin. These are guided walking tours visiting pubs frequented by famous Irish writers while actors perform scenes from their works. The Dublin Literary Pub Crawl is the most famous, running since 1988. Two actors guide you through Temple Bar and around Trinity College, stopping at various pubs, Davy Byrne's, the Duke, Palace Bar, while performing scenes from Joyce, Behan, Beckett, Wilde, and others. You learn about Dublin's literary history, the rivalries between writers, their drinking habits, Brendan Behan was notoriously difficult, and how pubs were where literary movements were born. The actors are hilarious and talented. You end up slightly drunk and significantly more knowledgeable. Other tours focus on specific writers, James Joyce tours retracing Ulysses, or themes, rebellious writers, ghost stories. For literature fans, it's perfect, history, performance, alcohol, and walking all combined. The total absence of pretension anywhere, this is what struck me most about Ireland. There's no pretense, no putting on airs, no one trying to impress anyone. Billionaires and farmers drink in the same pubs. Everyone chats with everyone. There's no us versus them mentality between locals and tourists. People are straightforward, honest, self-deprecating, and genuine. This comes from Irish history. Centuries of poverty and oppression created a culture where community mattered more than individual status. The tall poppy syndrome is real. Anyone getting too big for their britches will be taken down a peg through good-natured slagging. But it creates an egalitarian culture where everyone is treated the same. You can have deep conversations with strangers because nobody's performing. It's refreshing, relaxing, and makes you realize how much energy we waste trying to impress people elsewhere. How green everything actually is. Like neon green, you think you know what green looks like. Then you go to Ireland and realize you had no idea. The grass is luminescent, almost artificial looking in its intensity. This is because of the rainfall, the mild temperatures, the Gulf Stream, and the limestone soil. Irish grass grows year-round. 40 shades of green is actually underselling it. There are hundreds of shades across every hillside. Emerald in the valleys, darker green on shadowed slopes, lime green where sun hits wet grass, moss covering stones in forest green. The greenness is overwhelming, especially if you arrive from somewhere dry. Your eyes need time to adjust. Photographers struggle because cameras can't quite capture how green it really is. It's the first thing every visitor comments on, and the thing you remember most vividly years later. The smell of peat fires burning. Peat, turf, is partially decomposed vegetation that's been compressed in bogs for thousands of years. It's cut in rectangular blocks, dried, and burned for fuel. The smell is earthy, sweet, slightly smoky, and completely distinct from wood fires. It permeates everything, your clothes, your hair, the air in every village. Peat burning is an ancient tradition dating back 4,000 years. Many rural homes still heat with turf, though it's declining due to environmental concerns. Burning peat releases carbon and damages bogs. But in country pubs, B&Bs, and cottages, you'll still find turf fires. The smell triggers something primal. It smells like history, like countless generations huddled around fires for warmth and cooking. Once you smell burning turf, you'll recognize it instantly forever. It's the smell of Ireland. Feeling completely safe walking around at night. Ireland has one of the lowest crime rates in Europe. Violent crime is rare. You can walk through Dublin city centre at midnight without concern. Country roads at night are pitch black but perfectly safe. People help strangers. Police, called Gardaí or guards, are approachable and friendly, and there's a general sense of security. This comes from strong community bonds, relatively low inequality, and cultural values emphasizing helping others. Pubs close around 11:30 p.m., later on weekends. People walk home chatting, singing, eating chips from the chipper. Women travel solo throughout Ireland comfortably. Obviously use normal urban caution in Dublin late at night, and avoid drunk idiots anywhere, but compared to most countries, Ireland feels remarkably safe. That safety allows you to relax, explore freely, and focus on experiencing rather than worrying. The way time moves slower there, Ireland operates on Irish time, which means things happen when they happen, not according to rigid schedules. Pubs might open 10 minutes late. Shops close for lunch. Conversations take priority over efficiency. Nobody rushes. Directions include stopping to chat with someone you meet along the way. This drives type A personalities crazy initially, then you adapt and realize it's actually lovely. The slower pace comes from centuries of agricultural life, where weather dictated schedules, not clocks. The culture values relationships and experiences over productivity. You stop planning every minute and start flowing with whatever happens. 3-hour pub conversations, spontaneous detours, extended meals, you surrender to Irish time. When you return home, you'll resent how rushed everything feels elsewhere. Church bells ringing across valleys. Ireland is still predominantly Catholic, though church attendance has declined, and every village has a Catholic church, often with a Protestant church as well. Church bells ring for Mass, weddings, funerals, and simply marking time. In rural areas, the sound carries for miles across valleys and fields. Hearing bells echo off hillsides is transporting. It connects you to centuries of Irish life where church bells structured daily rhythms. They rang during the famine, through rebellions, during emigration waves, through everything. The sound is both melancholy and comforting. Some churches have old bells from the 1700s to 1800s with distinctive tones. On Sunday mornings, bells ring across Ireland nearly simultaneously, this ancient technology still functioning, still calling people together, still marking time in the most analog way possible. Sunsets that last forever in summer. Ireland's northern latitude, Dublin is at 53 degrees north, level with Newfoundland, means extremely long summer days. In June and July, sunrise is around 5 a.m., and sunset isn't until 10 p.m. or later. But sunset doesn't just happen, it's a process lasting hours. The sky gradually shifts through oranges, pinks, purples, and reds. Twilight lingers forever. You can read outside at 10:30 p.m. Pubs have daylight streaming through windows at 9 p.m. It's disorienting and wonderful. The long days mean you can fit so much in, full day of sightseeing, dinner, sunset walk on the beach, and still make it to the pub for music. The flip side is winter, when sunrise isn't until 8:30 a.m. and it's dark by 4 p.m., but summer more than compensates. Those endless summer evenings, especially in western coastal areas, watching sun set over the Atlantic, are pure magic. The complete lack of stress you'll feel, something happens in Ireland. The stress you carried with you, work deadlines, relationship problems, financial worries, the constant low-level anxiety of modern life, it just evaporates. Maybe it's the slower pace, the green landscape, the friendly people, the lack of hustle culture, or the way Irish people don't take things too seriously. Probably it's all of those. You stop checking your phone constantly. You have longer conversations. You notice your surroundings instead of rushing past them. The Irish attitude toward life is pragmatic. Bad things happen. Weather is terrible. History was brutal. But you keep going. Find joy where you can. and don't waste energy on things you can't control. That philosophy is contagious. Visitors consistently report feeling more relaxed in Ireland than anywhere else. It's not just vacation mode, it's the culture itself lowering your stress response. How you'll want to move there after 3 days. This is called Irish fever, and it affects nearly everyone. By day 3, you're browsing Irish job sites, calculating visa requirements, and fantasizing about buying a cottage in Kerry. You imagine living in a village, becoming a regular at the local pub, learning Irish, writing a novel or painting landscapes, finally living the simple life. It's partly romanticization, but it's also recognizing something real, that life could be slower, more connected, more meaningful. Many people do move to Ireland, and most are happy they did, though adjustment takes time. The pull is powerful. Ireland makes you question your life choices, your priorities, and whether the career ladder is worth climbing. You might not actually move there, but you'll think about it constantly. And you'll definitely plan your return trip before you even leave. The feeling of connection to something ancient, Ireland's history, is visible and tangible. You walk on the same paths pilgrims walked 1,000 years ago. You touch stones placed by Neolithic people 5,000 years ago. The landscape has been shaped by humans for millennia, but hasn't been bulldozed and paved over. Ancient sites aren't roped off and sanitized. They're just there, accessible, real. Somehow this creates a feeling of connection across time, like the separation between past and present is thinner in Ireland. You understand viscerally that you're part of a long chain of humans experiencing the same landscape, these same storms, these same stones. It's humbling and profound. Modern life often feels disconnected from history, but in Ireland, history is all around you, still alive, still relevant. You're not just visiting, you're participating in something ancient and ongoing. You'll leave a piece of your heart there. Everyone does. This is the universal experience. Ireland gets under your skin, into your heart, becomes part of you. Years later, you'll randomly hear a fiddle tune and feel transported back. You'll see green grass and think, but it's not Ireland green. You'll meet someone from Ireland and immediately ask about their home county, wanting that connection. You'll say, I need to go back, constantly. The feeling is almost painful, a longing for a place that isn't even your home but somehow feels like it could be, should be, or once was. The Irish have a word for it. Hiraeth, borrowed from Welsh, a homesickness for a place you can't return to, or that never was. Everyone who visits Ireland experiences it. You leave part of yourself there, and Ireland becomes part of you. That's not hyperbole or marketing. It's just true. Ireland changes you, and you spend the rest of your life grateful for it and desperate to return. So there you have it, 100 reasons, and honestly, I could give you 100 more. Ireland isn't just a place you visit, it's a place that visits you back, if that makes sense. It gets into your bones. You'll find yourself thinking about it months later. A pub you sat in, a conversation you had, a cliff you stood on, the way light hit a hillside after rain, the sound of a fiddle, the taste of Guinness, the kindness of strangers who became friends. Ireland will break your heart and heal it simultaneously. It'll make you laugh and cry, often in the same evening. It'll slow you down and wake you up. It'll remind you what matters: connection, beauty, story, community, living fully rather than just efficiently. When are you going? Let me know in the comments, and if you've already been, tell me what I missed. What was your favorite moment? What's calling you back?